Welcome to today's live stream on how to write a review article for school and for publication. Today's topic comes from past discussions in these live streams on how to write abstracts, how to write summaries, even how to write a literature review. So I thought I would bring several topics, requested topics together into today's presentation. With that as background, let's get started. How to write a review article for school and publication. Keep in mind that your professors, especially on the master's degree and the doctoral degree level, have as their model for their assignments that they give you what they see and read and write themselves for publications. So often, school and publication are one in the same, especially given the fact that whether you are given a set of instructions or guidelines from a school or a set of instructions from a journal, you are still expected to understand and to follow those guidelines, regardless of where they came from. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started by asking the primary question of what is a review article? Well, it's a special type of literature review. You know what a literature review is. It is a synthesis or an overview of a number of sources on a given topic. Well, this review article goes by other names other than just the broad category of literature review. These types of reviews are often called systematic reviews, analytic reviews, or critical reviews. There may even be other names that you have heard that aren't up here. What do these things mean? What is a systematic, analytic, or critical literature review? Generally speaking, they are reviews that use some kind of filter, some kind of slant, whether it's a key question that the review itself will answer, whether it is a look at a particular set or use of a methodology that the literature review will answer or look at. There is some kind of narrow point of view, some kind of purpose, some kind of hypothesis that the literature review goes at, attempts to explain, corroborate. That means that in this kind of review, you must provide an evaluation of sources. This evaluation is centered around the particular question or questions that you're trying to answer. For example, you might be trying to draw conclusions from existing resources. And so that would be your point of evaluation or your point of analysis. You might be trying to identify new areas for research. And so that would be your slant or your road into these particular sources. And there might be other maps or roads that go with this as well. But all in all, what we can say that best differentiates this kind of review from all others is that it has a particular point of view, your point of view. We'll get more into the different aspects of this point of view later in this presentation. Okay, our next big question. How do review articles contribute to the academic discourse or scholarly conversation that is going on in a particular field? This is important for you to answer because your review, whether it's written for a professor or for a publication, must be seen to contribute something to this scholarly conversation, this academic discourse. So here are some things that you can do. Here are some things that all review articles attempt to do. One purpose, one value of these review articles is that they provide someone a comprehensive foundation on the topic. If you are approaching this subfield for the first time, if you're a student coming in for the first time to discuss this particular area, whether it be malaria or macroeconomics in Africa, you want to first put your feet on solid ground. And that means you will look for a review article that gives you a solid foundation of knowledge, the best knowledge in this particular field. That's one purpose. Another purpose is to explain the current state of knowledge. Let's say that you are versed in the history, background, sources, but you haven't looked at anything in a year or so. You're beginning your own research study. So what do you need? You need to be brought up to date. And one purpose of review articles is to bring everyone in the field up to date with one handy article where they don't have to look any place else to get up to date. That review article will provide that. Also, review articles identify gaps. Sometimes review articles do nothing more than suggest what further research can and should be done. And that is a major contribution of review articles. Then other researchers can read the review article and say, okay, I feel like I need to fill that gap. I understand that gap. That is a legitimate gap. And now I want to conduct research that answers the questions that lie unanswered in that gap. Another purpose of the critical review or the review article is to highlight methodologies and research techniques in a given field. In other words, the ones that were the most effective, the ones that fit with certain kinds of problems and not other kinds of problems. In other words, if you are looking for the methodology or the research technique or even the theoretical framework for your particular study, then a literature review, a review article, find one that focuses just on methodologies. And you will get an overview of those methodologies that will allow you to choose more consciously and more successfully. Another important value of these review articles is that many of them provide what is called a meta-analysis. A meta-analysis uses statistics from a large number of articles, sometimes 300, 500, sometimes even, I've read them in government publications, the meta-analysis has been over 1,000 articles. And what the meta-analysis does is take statistics from each of those articles and then evaluates those statistics for certain trends, for certain outcomes, for certain conclusions. That is a meta-analysis. It's a statistical form of a review article. Now, keep in mind that, as you can see here, these review articles are quite important in the academic disciplines. That's why there are some journals that focus only on review articles. So if you're looking to write a review article, you definitely want to look for a number of journals in that area that publish only review articles or mainly review articles. And keep in mind, there are literally 10,000 or more academic journal articles out there. There are companies such as Taylor and Harris, our Routledge, that those companies, just that one company has 3,000 academic journals. Now you start adding in all the other companies that also group or serve as a publishing arm for a number of academic journals. So there are literally thousands upon thousands of them out there. Some of them also do not publish review articles, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Well, we're going to talk about it right now, actually. Steps for writing a review article. Here's the first step. It is the step that is most often left out. Checking the journal article's aims and scope. As you know, I think I've explained this in another chat before. Let me stop for a moment and say some hello to some people. We have Pratik Sharma today. Hello. How are you, Pratik? Great to have you here. We have Asat. Asat, I guess you're not in class today. Rama, you're one of the ones for whom this presentation is being made. Becky Schmidt has a question. Do you have any teaching techniques or methods where college students respond well when teaching article reviews? The most effective, thank you for your question, Becky. The most effective technique that I have found so far is in a video that I've done on how to write a literature review. It is the number one return on YouTube whenever you search for literature reviews. It's got, I think, 1.6 million views. So I think there's something that is working there. I'm assuming, Becky, that you are a teacher and you're looking for some kind of way to help students get their heads wrapped around this whole literature review business. That is one that I have found. I came up with a particular method for writing literature reviews, a kind of baseline template for doing it, and that might be a good place to start. Okay, May says, hello. How are you, May? Great to see you. We have Jason Chong. Pal, I think, are you a first timer? But hello, thanks for coming by. Oh, Pal says that video saved my bacon. Yeah, that was the how to write a literature review that follows that formula. Oh, Becky, that's how you found it. Okay, great, Becky. If you are teaching students, Becky, I find that is a really comfortable way to approach literature reviews for students, especially undergraduates. Once they have that template down, then you can get them to add to it, kind of add in some of the things that we're talking about today. Oh, and you teach at Gannon University. Gannon. Remind me where that is at. It's up in the Northeast, isn't it? Pennsylvania, New Jersey, somewhere around there. Oh, tell them I said hello. And please, Becky, let me know anything that your students need, and I'm happy to produce it. My most successful and fun things to do are in response to people's requests. I find that quite rewarding, quite satisfying. Erie, that's fun. I gave a presentation at Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania. That's why I remember it. Back in the 1980s, I flew to Erie, Pennsylvania and gave a presentation at a conference there. Ultra Warrior. Please name some journals which publish only lit reviews in the field of education. That would take me a little bit of research, Ultra, and I'm happy to do it. Let me get finished with this presentation first, and I think that is an excellent request, and that will be the first thing we do after we get through this material. So thank you. Yeah, Becky, I'm sure you were probably an elementary student or a high school student at most whenever I was at Gannon University. Okay, back to our presentation here. I wanted to go back to this point because I can't emphasize it enough. As some of you know, I was a magazine editor and a book editor at Rodale Press. If you remember that, Becky, that's in Bethlehem, Allentown, Easton, Pennsylvania. I was a magazine and book editor for 14 years. And I have to tell you, the number one problem, the number one issue with anyone who sent us a manuscript for publication was that they had not read and digested and incorporated who we were as a magazine or book publishing company. And they did not know our specific aims as publishers. They just sent something in that they wanted to get published. That is not how it works. You must send something in that an editor wants. You must send something in that a publisher wants. And you only find that out by going to that journal's or that magazine's website, reading multiple back issues of it, not too far back, because when editors change, often the matrix changes, and really digging into that publication to find out what its aims and its scope are. Often, these publications will have a purpose, aims link on their own page, and you can go right in and find them. Oftentimes, editors will publish a year in advance the topics that they're going to consider in a certain month or a certain issue. And that gives writers sometimes a year advance notice to be working on their articles for that particular issue. So that's how specific it must be. You don't just write something, you write something for someone, whether it be a professor or whether it be for a specific journal, you write it for someone. Was that enough of a soapbox for you? Okay, you need to define your own scope as well. This is something that an editor definitely wants you to do. Your review article has to be manageable inside of a certain word count. Word counts are a fact of life. Whether it's your professor or whether it's the editor at a journal, word counts are a fact of life. If a professor didn't give you a word count, ask for one. If an editor doesn't give you a word count, run away as fast as you can, because that editor does not know what he or she is doing. And make everything happen within that word count. That means you can't be too broad or too narrow to get the job done within a specific word count. Okay, and also in a well-studied field, but this is a question I get often on, especially from master's and doctoral students on writing these review articles. But everything's been done. Everything's been covered. What else is new? In a well-studied field, here's what you do. You focus. You can focus on recent advances only. So you can have a literature review that focuses only on recent advances. Find best practices. You can have a literature review that focuses only on best practices, best methodologies, best whatever in a particular field. Controversy. You can have a literature review that focuses just on a controversy. Do vaccines cause autism? What does the literature say? Just on that one controversy. You might even have to limit that to a particular kind of vaccine, as a matter of fact, in a particular country. So always focus, scope, go together. Okay, let me check if there are any other questions. Oh, you graduated from Gannon with your first master's. All right. 45 is the new 30, Becky. I want people to research company. Yes, absolutely, Becky. Yeah. If you don't do it, you're crazy. You're just not going to get. You're going to be seen as an amateur, and you're going to get that manuscript chunked in the round circular file. Okay, let's go on to our step 3. And our step 3 is find sources to evaluate. Whoa. This search is more or less the make or break moment for your review article or your literature review, because your review is only as good as your sources. That's why you must find the best sources. And to find the best sources, you're going to need to use multiple search engines, not just Google Scholar. You're going to need to use multiple databases. So you need to get into as many academic libraries and databases as you can, because of one of the facts that I told you earlier of the sheer number of academic journals out there, the sheer number of them. And you have to do a workman's job of exhausting the search engines and the databases to really scour that huge number of journals that are out there. And of course, how do you find the best? Well, that's where other literature reviews come in. That's where other review articles come in, because there you will often find the authors who wrote those review articles. Not only will you find their references list quite valuable, you will also find their evaluations quite valuable that will help you target the most appropriate, relevant, and best ones for you. You don't want to be doing a review article and leave out a critical study done in 1960. That's that's very important, or the latest advances. Okay, more steps for writing your review article. Your next step, now that you've collected the resources, now that you've done the analysis, now you're going to introduce the topic. In that introduction to your literature review, that's a very important place. That is where you pitch. That is where you do your sell job, your salesmanship. Your job, and a lot of researchers don't need like to hear this, but it's exactly what journal editors will tell you. Your job in that introduction is to make a case for why your review article should be read. You've got to entice researchers. You've got to tell why it is worth their time to invest effort in your review article. You've got to make the case. What is its purpose? What will they get out of it? What is its scope? You want to also, then this is tricky, in that opening intro, you want to not go down narrow enough so that it doesn't reach a large enough audience. These journal editors are really interested in increasing their subscribership, increasing their readership. And so that means they want articles that appeal to as much of their audience as they can get. In other words, you don't want to be targeting just a slice of that journal's readership. You want to find elements of what you're writing about that appeal to a broad swath of that journal's readership. That's very important to an editor. It's also important, and you see this more and more today, of using the visual elements, the visual style, often seen on the web, that I guess was first begun on the web back in the 1990s, when none of you were alive, of using subheads and sub-subheads. In other words, trying to make these journal articles more readable by dividing them into more discernible chunks. Okay, critical discussion. Yes, that is where it all happens, isn't it? Remember, your critical discussion is not a descriptive summary. That's what undergraduates do. You are not doing that. You are writing something for publication, and by writing it for a professor, especially in the master's and doctoral degree, that is in proxy writing it for publication. So if there is a debate, you must present both sides of the debate. If there is a conflict or a contradiction between studies, you need to present that contradiction and try to work out that contradiction. You can also, in the critical discussion, highlight key advances. You can also highlight areas in need of more research. You can, after reviewing a number of these sources, you can point out the common pitfalls that you saw these researchers encounter in their research. In other words, you're making some kind of prediction, some kind of evaluation, some kind of analysis, some kind of systematic review of what you see in that large collection of literature. You can also predict where the field is heading. These are all things that you can do in the critical discussion portion. The critical discussion does not mean going in and saying, he did this right, she did this wrong, this is lousy, this is good. That is not the point of a critical discussion. The point is an analysis that fits some of these points that you just saw here. This is what is considered a critical discussion. A kind of discussion that helps people to understand more, a kind of discussion that puts things in perspective, a kind of discussion that pulls out insights and clues and threads that weren't there before. That is what is most often meant by a critical discussion. It's a commonly misunderstood point. How are we doing on questions? Oh, Ultra Warrior wants a meta analysis. Okay, sure. Yeah, lots of great meta analyses out there. Ultra, it's primarily a statistical venture. I don't know whether or not you are in that kind of field or not that does a lot of quantitative work or turning data into statistics and then making an analysis of those statistics. If you're in that kind of field, Ultra, definitely happy to do that one for you. Jason, what's different between a research critique? None that I know of, Jason. Is research critique the term that you're hearing or that you're being asked to produce? Again, these things go by a lot of different names: analytic review, systematic review, critique review, research critique. They all go by a lot of different names, but they all add up to the same thing, which is a literature review with a specific purpose. Let me hear from you, Jason, as to whether or not research critique is something new or something pretty much similar to what we're talking about. Okay, steps for reviewing a review article. Step 6 is to sum it up. You know as well as I do that the introduction and the summary or conclusion are usually the two parts read first. So what you want to do, especially in the summary, because you know it's the part that's going to be read most often, is this is where you want to state explicitly what is known and what needs investigation, what you found and what it means. That leave that clear impression in the summary, because that's where your readers are most often going to go first. All right. You also, in the summary, want to make concrete suggestions for future research. As again, we pointed out earlier, that one of the reasons people read these review articles is to find areas that they can research. And then to kind of bring it all together at the end, you want to write the title, abstract, and keywords. As you know, these things are last for a reason. You really, with the possible exception of the title, you really can't write the abstract and the keywords without having finished the review article first. They are last for a reason. The abstract and the keywords kind of go hand in hand with a way to summarize the entire article. Because they are last, and now you're tired, you've expended a lot of energy on doing this, and so your tendency might be not to put as much effort into these as they need. Remember, these are the things, although they're written last, that the first thing the article or the professor sees. Title, abstract, keywords, in that exact order. With also the list of authors. Title, authors, abstract, keywords. The very first thing that are seen. First impressions, ladies and gentlemen. First impressions. So I'm going to spend some time here. I'm running out of time. So I've already taken up a half hour. We're almost finished. I want to take up some time here going over some of the guidelines for writing your titles, abstract, and keywords. We've reviewed titles and abstracts and how to write them in previous live streams. And so you can find more in-depth discussion in those. But let's go ahead and set up a few guidelines of these. I'm going to be reviewing an article published in the Malaria Journal. Yes, there is such a thing as the Malaria Journal. There are several of them, by the way. And so I picked an article out of the Malaria Journal, and we're going to look at its title, abstract, and keywords. Okay. In the title, you want to be sure to incorporate keywords. I don't think this is something we spent a lot of time on in our previous live stream, but editors will be looking for the correspondence, the correlation between keywords in your title and the keywords you list at the end of your abstract, and also the keywords used in the abstract. Why? Editors want people to read the articles. That means that people have to be able to find the articles. And that's why you see this important emphasis on keywords in the title, abstract, and the list of keywords. There's a tendency, if you haven't written a lot of titles, to try to be really impressive with them rather than functional or practical. And so what you want to do is to make sure that that thing is understandable by even readers outside the field. If readers outside the field can understand it, then you're going to be okay. So this means avoiding abbreviations, numbers, symbols, formulas, other things that are specific to a given subfield or field. You want to avoid cliches like study of, more about. And instead you want to include the who, what, when, where, and why. Now, you're not going to include all of the 5 W's in every title, but those 5 W's are a good place to start. Let's take a look at this title of this article published in the Malaria Journal. Malaria and Meghalaya. It's a region in northern India, I do believe. Anybody from India who is here? Oh, we've got some other questions here. We have a question from Ali. Dear Prof, how can I effectively plan for my review article in terms of how search? What reference to include? How to determine subheadings? How to Let me get to that after we finish, Ali. That's going to require a bit of a longer answer. There's a lot to that question, but it's a good one, and it's an important one for us to discuss. And Ultra asks, it would be super interesting to explain the different types of review articles: scope review, mapping review, comprehensive review. There are as many types of review articles as there are journals and authors. There are a bunch of them. I will definitely try to get you the major types. The most important place, and I'm going to go ahead and answer this, Ultra, because I think I can answer it relatively quickly. The most important place where you can find the important types of review articles is the journal where you hope to publish. Now, that's one answer. Another answer is, and I think this is what you might be looking for, what kind of review article should I write in my class? And if that's the question, then all I need to know is what the class is and what the assignment is. Okay, let's take a look at, Let's take a look at this title here, Malaria, a systematic literature review. So it's telling you what this is. There's the topic, malaria in this part of India. I won't try to pronounce it again. And what is going to be the approach to malaria in this area? It's going to be a systematic literature review and an analysis of data from the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. So what can you expect? You know everything to expect in this article. It's going to look at malaria in a specific region of India, and it's going to do it by analyzing data. And by the way, that's another form that's called a meta-analysis, isn't it? By doing a meta-analysis of stats from this organization. And it's also going to be necessarily a literature review of what's been written about regarding malaria in that area before. So I think that's a good title. It's certainly understandable by me, and because this is a bioscience area and I'm not versed in it at all. Okay, let's go to keywords. Keywords, here are your steps. Go ahead and read your finished product and do so with a marker, either digital or hand, and highlight what you think to be the most important terms and phrases. Then simply pull them out without analyzing them and make a list of them. And after you've made a list of them, then go in and do practice searches with those keywords. The 5, 6, 7 that return the most results are your keywords. So remember, what are editors looking for? Readers. What do editors want to do? To get that article to as many people as possible. So therefore, your keywords want to be highly productive ones. Eliminate the non-productive keywords and then review the final list, and you got it. Here were the keywords for this article as published in the Malaria Journal. Malaria, the name of the region in India, Meghalaya, LLINS, that's a malaria specific or data specific term, I'm sorry. Epidemiology, because this is epidemiological study. Anopheles, the most prevalent mosquito that carries malaria, and a particular form of malaria called complex malaria. So those were the keywords from throughout this review article that produced the most returns related to this particular topic. And now the abstract. Guidelines. The abstract, remember, is nothing but a miniature version of the article. The abstract is a miniature version. So every section that is in the article should be in the abstract. So what was in the introduction to your article? The objective, the purpose. What was also in the introduction? The reasoning for the choices. In other words, why those sources are important. Then come the main outcomes and results that you got from the critical review or critical analysis, and then end with the implications for current practice. Those are the basic guidelines. And most journals do have you include the keywords at the end of the abstract. But those are the basic guidelines for the abstract. You must write a few sentences for each of those 4 items while keeping within the word limit assigned to you. Abstracts, depending upon the journal, can be between 100, 400, even 500 words long. Word count is always a function of the assignment or the editor you're writing for. Okay, and of course it must be self-contained. In other words, after reading the abstract, I should feel like that I have a pretty good handle on the entire article. Okay, here's our sample abstract. Again, here's our title, Malaria and Meghalaya. Now, you notice a couple of things about this abstract. It is, one, reflective of the main divisions of the article that it is abstracting. It's also divided into chunks. Again, I'm telling you, and of course, this is highly dependent upon the person or audience you're writing for, the journal you're writing for, the professor you're writing for. But don't be surprised when you are seeing these subdivisions, these subheads in the various things that you write and submit. So here we have background, methods, results, conclusions, and then the keywords down at the bottom. I think that pretty much finishes us up. Let me go back to this thing here, and let me go back to the questions. So now is the time for you guys to ask questions. Let's go ahead and tackle this one by Ali. And Ali's question is, how can you effectively plan for your review article in terms of how to search? First, you must have a narrowed topic, Ali, and you want to make sure that you are investigating something that has a direction to it. This is not a review article or systematic critical review. It's not a general review. You're asking a question. These review articles have their own hypotheses. So you first come up with a hypothesis. What have been the major advances in such and such in the last decade? That is a very specific hypothesis, very specific research question. And that's where you begin. Now, in terms of how to search, this is something you might have come in late, Ali, and that's fine. I'm happy to repeat it for you and everyone else. And that is, When doing a search, a literature search, you must consult multiple databases, multiple search engines. You must exhaust all of the search engines and databases that you can possibly lay your hands on. That's one method of search. Another method of search is to read other literature reviews in this area and find any important articles listed in the references or discussed in the article that you didn't find in your database and search engine search. What references to include, that is answered by the research question, Ali. Only include the references that help you answer the research question. Now, keep in mind, a review article is different from a literature review. A review article is a specific type of literature review. Okay. What do we have next? I'm sorry, I'm pausing. Now I'm reading your question. Each of those types that you just named are specific purposes. Each achieves a specific purpose. In a scope review, you're saying, okay, how large is the problem? What are the defining limits or the purlius of this problem? And so you want to circumscribe the something that is a specific purpose. This one would include a lot of definitions. It would say this is included, this is not included. A scope review is a specific purpose. The same for a mapping review. If you're doing some kind of map of ideas, if you're doing a map of developments, that is a specific purpose. A comprehensive review, I'm not quite sure what that is. You might, if you can explain that to me a little bit more, I would appreciate it. But each of the ones that you've noted are associated with a specific purpose. Pal had to leave. See you later, pal. Now, Ali and Ultra, are there any follow-ups to your questions? And the rest of you, we have 12 people still in the chat, 13. Those who are still here in the live stream, what other questions do you have? Not just about review articles, but about anything related to the writing and the research that you're currently doing. So I'll take a swig while waiting on your responses. There's a lag between this streaming software, my end. There's a 10 second lab at YouTube, and so I understand that there might be a little bit of pause here. I will go back while I'm waiting for any other questions. Oh, Ultra, you did not answer the question that I asked you. Are you involved in a field that uses a lot of statistics? And are you in a field where there's a prevalence of quantitative studies? And if so, what field is that? Oh, okay. I see now you are in education. And I see your question that we're going to follow up on was to find review articles in education, and there are tons of them. Ultra, your video on how to write literature is quite successful to you. Would you do another one with a different approach? Yeah. What kind of approach are you most interested in, Ultra? Are you just interested in a different kind of approach? You are involved in quantitative studies in education. Okay, great. So let me share my screen. Okay, I'm now sharing my entire screen, and I'm going to pull up a web browser, and we are looking for journal articles, journals in education and social sciences. Journals, education, social sciences, review articles. See what we get. So what you would need to do here, Ultra, is to go through each one of these and see what kind of articles they publish. So let's go to this. So here's their calls and announcements area. Looks like they're doing so. They have a call out for book review. Okay, here we go. So JSSE is interested in longer, thematically oriented review essays. So they are definitely looking for those. That call was made in 2018. I don't know if they're still looking for them. You probably need to contact them. And by the way, there's no problem with contacting these people at all. Here's their editorial team. Here's their contact information. Looks like they're in Germany. Here's their guidelines for submissions. Oh, they even have a template for you to download for your submission. This Ultra reinforces what we were saying earlier about you don't just write something for publication, you write something for a particular publication. In this case, you saw how Journal of Science had very specific guidelines, even a template that you had to use. Let's take a look at this one. Education and Social Sciences Review. Published in Indonesia. Issues, current archive submissions. Let's see what they say on submissions. You know what I would do with a journal like this? I would write what's called a query letter, since they're not saying that whether or not they take that particular form of academic article, a critical review. I would write them a query letter and say, "Dear," here's their contact. That's if they list a team. Yeah. So, dear editor Zola, um, I am writing regarding a critical review article that I have written, am writing on, and then you state the topic, you state its purpose, you state its outcome, and you say, I hope that this fits within your guidelines. And again, you would need to read about the journal very specifically. And say, basically, are you interested in seeing this article? I would write a query article for a review article, query letter for a review article. So it looks like there are quite a few here. Oh my God. Seymour. Okay. Under the Grandstand by Seymour. Gee, there are just tons of them there. So that would be my advice. Let me get back to something a little more viewable here. Okay. So how did that work, Ultra? Ultra, let me put your question up. I would not, I would not, I would not assume that. Yeah. I'm thinking of my field, and that certainly wasn't true in my field. Let's see, Ali. When you try to search and you're searching for a review article, you just find all the topics are somehow redundant. Well, sure, they're redundant because they've already been written about. I mean, that's what you're finding, Ali. Because these are things that have been published, then they are naturally things that you would not write about because they've already been published. So what you need to do is to find a particular research question that has not been covered, or, and this is something that we suggested in the chat, if you're finding a topic that you want to write about that has been written about a lot, your next step is to write what's called an update article, where you go in and find on that topic the latest published articles that haven't been reviewed, that haven't been written about. Now, I'm assuming here we're talking about a literature review, not a topic for your research. Asat, I wonder if publication of commented translated source is a thing. Publication of commented translated source. I bet it is. I bet it is. I'll need to reference translation later for different topics. But commentary, yes, it is. Yeah. I know that, gosh, because I was in English language and literature, the number of translations that I had to read were enormous. And also, we often had to look at and evaluate and compare translations against each other. And so we often relied upon these commentaries on translation as a way to evaluate the translation. So I think that's a potentially profitable area, ASOT. What you would need to do is to find some articles, find some journals who are already publishing those types of articles, and just see what's happening in the field. And then you'll have your feet on somewhat solid ground and can continue forward. Becky, do I sell NFT? No, I don't. Oh, Becky, I'll send it to you. My goodness. Yeah, you guys, I have all of these PowerPoints. And Becky, you can get the audio that goes with them by downloading the video, or just capturing the audio if you want the audio that goes with the PowerPoint, or make up your own audio. That would probably be better. But yeah, Becky, by all means, just tell me which ones you want, and I'll be happy to send them to you. Yeah, believe me, I'm not in this to make money. I'm just doing it because it's important and it's fun, and I get a lot out of it. Yes, Becky, for free. Yes, absolutely. If you want to leave a tip, you can leave a tip. What is my tip? I have a PayPal me tip thing if you want to use that. Okay, well, no problem. I can't even remember my PayPal me link. Let me go to my channel. It's on my channel. Here it is. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Becky. And here you go. Here's the PayPal link. But I mean, as scholars and as fellow attendees at Gannon University, uh, we've got to share these things, Becky. We got to support each other, right? Oh, you want all of them? Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Becky. Okay. More questions. Those were great questions by Ali and Asad and Ultra. Thank you very much. Those kinds of questions add so much to our discussion and give me great ideas for our next live stream. All right, Raylene. Oh, thank you, Raylene. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate it very much. Shows that what I'm doing is of some value to you, and that's quite rewarding. Okay, more questions. I have a few more minutes left. Hey, you know what you can do, Becky? You can send me your email address. Here's my. You're welcome, Marlene. Here's my email address. And anybody who wants copies of these PowerPoints, Lord, I'm having trouble typing today. It's above. Okay, great. Thank you, Becky. All right. Already put it in. Okay. Now, what you guys can do, and anybody on this chat, we have 14 people still in the chat. If you want these PowerPoints, just send me your email address and I will send you a link to them. I'll put them on my Google Drive and I'll send you a link to my Google Drive. And use them however you want to use them. I'm really am a strong believer in the free and open internet, and especially on the obligation of all researchers and all academicians to support each other and to share our materials in an open, productive way, because we're all kind of a part of the same conversation, the same kind of push, to understand, to educate, etc. Well, it looks like we're kind of at the end of the hour. I thank you all very much for coming by. It's great to see some of you again, and it's great to meet new people as well. I will see you again on next week's live stream. I'll kind of take everything I've gotten here and to kind of formulate a good topic for us for the next live stream. Okay, talk to you guys later. Oh, you will, Becky. There's no doubt about it. It's in your heart. I can tell already. It is definitely in your heart. You wouldn't be here otherwise. Okay, talk to you later.